Are you struggling to figure out where to start with your IELTS preparation journey? Your IELTS preparation is the key to opening doors to study and work abroad. Even if you don't know much about IELTS, this video will definitely be helpful for you. And I will tell you advice on how to prepare for each section. Let's start off with the listening. Let me tell you one thing. Your listening score will largely depend on your level. The first step that you gotta take is to take an authentic practice test. And depending on your results, I will give you my advice. If you scored between 35 and 40, this means that your listening skills are great. And what you need to do is to learn about different question types. Identify your weaknesses in this stage. For example, if you're losing attention in the listening test, then you should definitely listen to something for longer than 30 minutes actively, but not passively. Let's say your mistakes are because of spelling. Then that means you have to work on your spelling. If you scored between 30 and 35, that means you can work on IELTS listening, but you should also work on your listening skills. And if you got less than 30 out of 40, this means that you have to focus on your English skills. I recommend you to improve your level first, then approach the IELTS test. By the way, in IELTS listening test, you will have 40 questions and it's going to be around 30 minutes and there are 4 parts. IELTS listening test is the same for academic and general training exams. There are some things that you gotta keep in mind. For example, you will listen to the recording only once. Questions are all in order. A lot of students actually ask me, how do you actually improve your level of listening skills? My advice to those people would be to listen to something that you really enjoy. If you enjoy listening to a specific podcast, then listen to it. Let's move on to the reading section. The same criteria apply to the reading test as the listening test. In this section, you need to work on your reading skills. You can read articles, magazines, or newspapers. If your reading comprehension is poor, you will have a hard time getting a high score in reading. For those who might not know about the reading test, the IELTS reading test has 40 questions and you will be given 60 minutes to answer them. And there are 3 passages. Another mistake that a lot of students make in IELTS reading is spending too much time on just one question. If you are struggling on just one question in your real exam, I don't recommend you to spend too much time on it. Instead, leave it and do other questions first. And at the end, you can look at that question again. IELTS reading test will not only test your reading comprehension skills, but it will also test your vocabulary. Let's move on to the writing section. There are 2 tasks in IELTS writing. In task 1, for academic test, you will need to write a report describing visual information. In task 1, for general training, you need to write a letter based on a prompt. For the academic test, you will be tested whether you can analyze and summarize information effectively. In task 2, you will write an essay. General training essays are usually easier to understand, whereas academic essays are more complex. Don't memorize templates or sample essays. I would definitely advise you to focus on task achievement first, which is reading the question carefully and answering it properly. Some students might go off topic, which might have a negative impact on your IELTS writing score. You can also get feedback on your grammar by AI. Are you making mistakes with tenses, articles, or prepositions? And I definitely recommend you to focus on your weaknesses. Let's move on to the fourth section of the IELTS, which is speaking. In IELTS speaking, there are three parts. In part 1, you will be given general questions about yourself. In part 2, you will be given a cue card and you will have 1 minute to prepare and 2 minutes to speak. In part 3, you will be given more complex questions. My advice for you is in part 1, your answer should not be too long. In part 2, use your time efficiently. Don't waste your time writing sentences in part 2 of the IELTS speaking. Another advice that I want you to give is to not use fancy words. A lot of people struggle with time management in IELTS reading, and there are actually easy ways that can help you easily complete IELTS reading on time, and which I explain it in the video that you can see somewhere on the screen.